Good afternoon. This is Channel 1 Lunchtime News. I trust you're having a lovely day so far. Well, we have a lot compiled right here for you to bring you a comprehensive bulletin. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Simon Karutha. Now, to kick us off, we head over to the Council of Governors offices in Westlands, whereby the Council of Governors were discussing matters regarding the welfare of workers as well as the county COVID-19 preparedness response and the disbursement of funds to the counties. Our reporter Safin Achingoma is on the ground and will give us more details. Safin? Well, we shall be bringing you that report in a moment. Now, moving on, Dennis Itumbi has filed an application in court against Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who was then an Education Cabinet Secretary, the Director of Public Prosecution and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission as interested parties in relation to the Ruaraka land 1.5 billion scandal. In his affidavit, he seeks to press charges on counts of abuse of office, willful failure to comply with the law and applicable procedure and guideline relating to management of public funds, committing an offence of financial misconduct and conspiracy to defraud the government 1.5 billion shillings. Well, we'll be bringing you that report later on. Moving on, Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi is calling for the arrest and prosecution of a police officer alleged to have shot a Class 6 pupil during an eviction exercise in Migingo area, Malindi town. Kingi, terming the incident as unwarranted, pledged to take up the matter with the Independent Police Oversight Authority and to get justice for the minor.
The shooting of the minor during violent confrontations between police and squatters who were being evicted in Malindi has sparked public outrage, prompting the Governor Amason Kingi to pledge action against the responsible officers.
Mimi kama governor wa sehemu hii nataka nilani vikali kile kitendo cha polisi kutumia risasi kwa wananchi ambao hawajajihami wala si hatari, hawatarishi maisha ya mtu yote. Kile kilichofanyika ilikuwa ni mzozo baina ya yule ambaye anasema anamiliki ile shamba na wale ambao wanakaa katika lile shamba. Na mizozo ya ardhi si Malindi, si Kilifi, si Pwani. Mizozo ya ardhi haiwezi kusuluhishwa na bunduki.
Speaking in Malindi, the governor vowed to take up the matter with the Independent Police Oversight Authority.
Kwa nini nani alitoa amri kwa polisi wachukue mabunduki na waingie katika vijiji vya wananchi dhaifu ambao hata kujikinga hawezi na kwenda kutumia risasi live bullets. Mpaka sasa kuna kijana ambaye amelazwa hospitali kwa sababu ya yale majeruhi. Tumwombea Mungu apone, asifariki. Lakini ni jambo ambalo tayari tumelichukulia kwa uzito na ni kitu ambacho tutakipeleka mbele ya IPOA ili kichunguzwe vilivyo.
The boy from Maziwani Primary School is nursing gunshot wounds at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital. He was allegedly shot on the leg as he fled security personnel who were allegedly helping an Asian tycoon to evict residents from a disputed parcel of land. The drama unfolded after the tycoon, who is claiming ownership of the land, began surveying a section of the land with plans to sell it. Locals claim the man, who has not produced any documents to prove the ownership of the land, has severally used police to harass them.
Huyo muhindi amekuwa na shida ya kutuangaisha sana. Kwanza saa 7 za usiku wanataka wanaume. Wanakuja wanabisha mlango, wanataka kubeba watu. Sasa leo kulikuwa na kesi kotini. Ilisemekana kuna watu walitaka kuchoma nyumba ya huyo kibaraka anaitwa Nyundo. Wakatoka kotini, kutoka kotini tu hivi akakuja tayari kupima mahali kule. Kwanza kupima watu sasa nafikiri ndio walishikwa na ile ghadhabu, wakakasirika, wakaenda kwanza kumpura mawe.
Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 Lunchtime News.
Away from that, over 200 enforcement officers drawn from 12 sub-counties in Kiambu County are accusing Governor James Nyoro of allegedly sending them home on compulsory leave, even without issuing a letter showing that their jobs are safe. Led by Felix Mborokagiri, the irate officers said the head of the Inspectorate Department called them to the county headquarters and verbally ordered them to go home for leave until January without serving them with any official document on the same.
The officers sent on compulsory leave claim their woes started when the governor allegedly started engaging the National Youth Service team to do their work.
Na tukasema tunataka kujua haki yetu ni nini. Baadhi yetu wameambiwa waende nyumbani kwa sababu wamewatiwa leave. Sisi hatukuambiwa maana ya leave ni nini. Walikuja wakapangwa kwa parade each and every sub county, wakaambiwa kutoka hapa nyinyi hamuko kazi. Wengine wakoka? Ama namna gani?
Anasema tuende tupumzike na hata hajatulipa mishahara yetu. Is he a parent? Ni mzazi, ako na watoto. Hapa sisi venye unatuona hapa sisi ni wazazi. Na hata akisema sisi ni waragai ama tunafanya nini? Hakuna venye unaweza, how can he survive? Na nataka anijibu hii. For 5 to 6 months without a salary. Unalipa nyumba, uko na watoto wanakula.
Margaret Kafaiku termed the move unfair to them, saying they have been key in implementing reforms in the enforcement department. They threatened to file a case in court if they will not be reinstated to duty. The governor, however, said his office is in the process of undertaking administrative restructuring.
Kuna watu ambao tumesimamisha kazi hapa na pale, lakini wanaendelea kwenda pretending that they are giving services to people and they are extorting money from them. And we said we are going to have an identification card, which we are going to make sure it is not counterfeited.
Kevin Washira, Lunchtime News.
Now let's link up with our reporter Safina Chium at the Council of Governors offices in Nairobi, where the Council of Governors earlier on discussed matters regarding the welfare of workers as well as the COVID-19 preparedness response. Now, Safina, what do you have for us?
A very good afternoon, Jackie. Wambiru back there in studio. Of course, we have been following up on the latest from the Council of Governors. And what we know as per now is that yesterday they held a high-level meeting. The Council of Governors had a high-level meeting to discuss, among other issues, the management of COVID-19 across the counties as the positive cases continue to escalate in the country. And, of course, to also look into the overwhelmed healthcare workers and the overstretched health facilities across the counties. And also one of the key issues that formed the main agenda for that high-level meeting among the governors was the issue of delayed disbursement of funds to county governments. Now, they came up with quite a number of resolutions after this meeting, and that is what they were telling us this particular morning. And key among them touch on, the lack of information when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the governors in their meeting yesterday resolved that beginning Monday next week, they are going to launch what is sort of known as a campaign, a sensitization campaign on COVID-19, and of course talking about provision of PPEs, especially for healthcare workers who currently are facing several challenges in their line of duty, which include lack of enough and even quality PPEs. So governors, promise that they're going to facilitate the availability of these essential tools for healthcare workers to, just make their work easier as they stay in the front line in the battle against COVID-19. Of course, touching more on the healthcare workers, they are also saying that going forward, counties are going to allocate special health facilities that are going to be utilized by healthcare workers and their families in the event that they contract COVID-19. And also talking about plans that are currently underway and are almost at a very advanced stages for healthcare workers to get a comprehensive medical cover in the event that they or their family members contract COVID-19. But one of the issues that really was striking from this up update by the Council of Governors was how the delay of disbursement of funds to the counties. And so far, according to what we know, is that for 3 months now, counties have not been able to receive funds from the National Treasury. There has been no exchequer for about 3 months, going into the 4th month. And speaking to us, the COG chair, Weekly for Paranya, actually sort of painted a very grim picture going forward, that essential services across the counties may be shut down if the situation continues. So they were calling on both levels of government, both the national and county governments, to really urgently intervene on this particular matter so that no service that Kenyans deserve to get at this critical time is affected. And one of these critical services include the health services, because among the staff that have been affected include the healthcare workers, who an essential number of them have not been paid their salaries for so long. So this is going to really affect how they deliver, how they give their services across the counties in health facilities at a critical time when the country is facing the second wave of the COVID-19 cases. So that is just part of what the Council of Governors is actually working on with regards to the resolutions that they came up with from their meeting yesterday, a high-level meeting among several governors from different counties, just to talk about the mitigation measures on COVID-19, the progress we are making, talking about the welfare of healthcare workers, talking about the availability of essential tools like PPEs, and also the delay in the disbursement of funds across the counties that is now threatening service delivery across several regions in the nation. For now, it's back to you in studio, Jackie.
Well, thank you so much, Safina Ching. They're bringing us to speed on the Council of Governors resolution, including ensuring that health workers have access to adequate and quality PPEs, as well as undertaking a sensitization campaign on COVID-19 beginning Monday, 3rd November 2020. On that note, we take a short break. Don't go too far. There's still more to come.
When I got the admission letter to Alliance Girls High School, I wasn't excited because my parents weren't employed at that time, so I wouldn't have gone to school without financial support. I heard about the Equity Wings to Fly program. I applied and I was able to get in. They paid for everything, literally everything that I needed. After high school, we were recruited into the Equity Leaders program, and we got an internship at the bank and college counseling. I was expecting to go to school in September, but due to the pandemic, we were told that the classes are going to be online. Equity conducted sessions on how to adapt to the new changes and how to maneuver through the classes. I'm also doing the Equity mentorship for the Wings to Fly students who are still in school. After getting into Ashes University, I was still supported by Equity. Once I finish, I'd like to pursue a master in engineering, and after all that, I'd like to start my engineering company. I'd like also to start an initiative like the one Equity started here to sponsor students through their education, supporting their dreams.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Enjoy the magic of Christmas with Coca-Cola.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduthi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 300 199 shillings. Quick bit shilingi moja unaweza nunua. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua micro. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Welcome back. Moving on, tension is high in neighboring Uganda following the death of 16 people as political unrest heightens. Protests broke out 2 days ago following the arrest of presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi alias Bobi Wine for allegedly violating COVID-19 protocols. At least 50 others have been injured as police battle civilians who are on a rampage demanding his release. Kyagulanyi is the main challenger against incumbent President Yoweri Museveni in the polls scheduled for 15th January 2021.
The arrest of Uganda's presidential aspirant Robert Kyagulanyi alias Bobi Wine triggered widespread protests in the country. The 38-year-old has been accused of flouting coronavirus prevention guidelines by addressing large crowds following a campaign rally in the east of the country. Demonstrators have taken to the streets of the country's capital, Kampala, burning tires and rubbish, a move that has forced security forces to fire tear gas and live bullets to disperse the irate loads. Businesses have been shut down and there is a heavy police presence. Bobi Wine is one of the 11 candidates who are challenging President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in the Uganda's highest office since the year 1986. The self-declared ghetto president was cleared to run for office following a constitutional change that removed the age limit by the country's electoral commission to run for presidency in the elections set for the 14th of January next year. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Now, in other news, police in Meru and Isiolo counties have launched a manhunt for suspected bandits alleged to have ambushed security officers last week. At least 12 officers from the General Service Unit and the Anti-Stock Theft Unit were injured during the attack.
An intelligence operation has been launched to smoke out firearm-wielding bandits who allegedly ambushed unsuspecting security officers at Makinya area, Igembe North constituency. The attack left 11 security officers nursing gunshot wounds as one of them succumbed to his injuries.
Carrying on an exercise to ensure that those who are involved in shooting our officers, security officers, are nabbed and brought to book. 10 officers were injured, and unfortunately we lost one of them, but I'm happy to report that the remaining 9 are doing very well.
Isiolo County Commissioner Herman Ashambi says they are combing the area in search of illegal firearms used during the attacks and bring the bandits to book.
Whenever we have illegal firearms, we have to ensure that we get those arms and ensure that those who are involved are brought to book so that they can face the full force of the law.
Commissioner Shambi clarified the nature of the operation as intelligence-based, urging members of the public to cooperate with security officers.
We are doing what we call intelligence-led operation because an incident happened. We have got some names of those people who are involved and we are going for them.
He further dispelled claims the officers sexually abused the villagers, appealing to anyone who was sexually assaulted during the operation to come forward.
If any officer or anyone has been raped, we want him to report to the nearest police station or to the officers concerned so that legal action is taken.
The operation is ongoing in Daaba and other parts of Ngarimara ward in Isiolo, where the bandits are believed to operate.
Kenya has joined the rest of the world to mark the Universal Children's Day with focus on the plight of children worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic. The day is commemorated every 20th November to promote international togetherness, awareness among children worldwide, and improve children's welfare. The Universal Children's Day is observed every 20th November to advocate, promote and celebrate children's rights through advocacy on dialogue and actions that will build a better world for children. In Kenya, the association this year comes in the backdrop of a spike in child pregnancy, early marriages and disrupted education, among other ills largely attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. On the eve of the day, an ungovernmental organization in Kajiado County embarked on an initiative to cushion parents in Kajiado East constituency as they struggle to provide for their children in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. The process, spearheaded by a Mali-dedicated children's agency, has seen residents acquire domestic goods that produce milk, NHIF medical insurance cards, school uniforms, among other benefits.
Lengo letu ni kuhakikisha tunapowahimiza walime na kwa ile ukulima ambao wanajihusisha nao, tunajua itakuwa inaendelezwa na itaendelea kuhakikisha watoto hawatatoka shule kwa sababu labda wazazi hawana chakula, hawana fedha.
Alitusaidia akatupatia na mbuzi. Sasa hiyo mbuzi iko karibu kusaa, na ikisaa tutafaidika, tutakunywa maziwa, na watoto wakienda shule wataweza tu kusiwa hiyo mtoto yake na watoto waende shule.
The agency has at the same time put up a farming project using greenhouse that will see proceeds from the sale of grocery assist needy children when schools reopen in January.
Tuko na bidhaa tofauti ambazo tunakuza kwa sasa, ambazo tunatumai wazazi watapewa na wataweza kupeleka nyumbani walishe watoto wao na waweze kuwa watoto wenye afya, kwa sababu kwa sasa kama tunavyojua corona imeweza kuadhiri wazazi wengi sana. Zile fedha huwa tunaziweka katika mradi ambapo tunasaidia wale watoto ambao hawajiwezi, na kwa sasa tuko na watoto zaidi ya 3,600.
The agency's coordinator Cyprian Muriuki noted that the pandemic has undermined parents' ability to provide basic needs for their children. He called for a multi-sectoral approach to address challenges faced by children.
Ili wahakikishe watoto wao wako na lishe bora, wameweza kupata elimu, kwa sababu wasipopata lishe bora then baadaye hawataweza kufika kwenda shule na kupata chochote wakiwa darasani.
And now on to the corridors of justice. Former head of digital and strategy in the Presidential Strategic Communication Unit, Dennis Itumbi, has filed an application in court against Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, the Director of Public Prosecution and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, in relation to the 1.5 billion shillings Ruaraka land scandal. In his affidavit, Itumbi cited abuse of office and failure to comply with the law and procedures in management of public funds. Elsewhere, 6 Egyptian nationals have been sentenced to 12 months in jail or 200,000 shillings fine each for being in the country illegally.
In his application, Dennis Itumbi claimed it has been 2 years since the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission took any progressive steps in prosecuting the then Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, who were persons of interest in the alleged compulsory acquisition of the 13.5-acre land in Ruaraka at a cost of 1.5 billion shillings. Dispute in the transaction revolved around whether the land was private or public, that led to the Ministry of Education releasing 1.5 billion shillings to acquire it and build 2 schools on it. Itumbi moved to court, filing an application in which he seeks to press charges against Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i on counts of abuse of office, willful failure to comply with the law and applicable procedure and guideline relating to management of public funds, committing an offence of financial misconduct and conspiracy to defraud the government 1.5 billion shillings. Itumbi further cited inaction of the DPP and the EACC and now awaits further directions from the court. And in Marolal, 6 Egyptian nationals have been sentenced to 12 months in jail or a fine of 200,000 shillings each for being in the country illegally. Appearing before resident magistrate Richard Koech, they were accused of being found in Samburu on the 11th of November this year without relevant immigration documents. They were also convicted for transacting business in Marolal without work permits. For Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robbie.
Away from that, the World Health Organization is warning countries to be on high alert for a possible surge of COVID-19 cases in the festive season begins. Now, this comes as counties remain on high alert in the wake of a spike in COVID-19 cases within the community.
World Health Organization launched the Mask Up Not Down campaign, targeting 40 million people in Africa in efforts to reduce the spread of the virus. The launch comes amid a warning of super spreader events as the festive season kicks off. WHO Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Mashidiso Moeti, says new clusters of cases can emerge in places that have so far been unaffected as people travel. He revealed nearly 20 African countries have reported an increase in virus cases in the last 28 days. Separately, Laikipia County Commissioner Daniel Nyamiti has called for virtual prosecution of remandees as a measure to minimize physical contact.
Instead of transporting them into our various courts, if it could be possible to have virtual or Zoom court sessions. We are told the facilities were procured by the Department of Prisons, but they are not in use.
Sentiments echoed by the Rift Valley Region Prisons Commander Agri Onyango, who noted that the courts as well as the prison service had procured ICT facilities that would enable them conduct virtual hearings and prosecutions. And in Kajiado, Amref Africa CEO Githinji Gitahi has urged teachers to adhere to the Ministry of Health COVID-19 protocols to curb the spread of the virus in learning institutions.
Overall success of the management of the pandemic is not going to be achieved through government directives. It's going to be achieved through the sum of individual decisions, one person by one person, deciding to wear a mask, deciding to wash their hands, and deciding to...
Meanwhile, over 500 pupils at the Old Kejuado Boarding Primary School received donations of washable face masks, with the school head teacher saying the learners had adapted to the new way of life.
And I want to tell our children not to get tired of wearing the mask, not to get tired of washing their hands regularly, not to get tired keeping social distance.
Meanwhile, UNICEF Kenya and Safaricom have partnered to ensure children in marginalized areas access internet at school and receive information during floods and disease outbreaks such as COVID-19. The campaign also seeks to support public information and behavior change in the wake of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the county government of Garissa has received personal protective equipment worth 6.4 million shillings from Frontier Counties Development Council to boost the war on COVID-19. The Chief Officer for Health and Sanitation, Abdi Shukri, said the donation would assist frontline workers.
And through your account donation, we are certainly going to accomplish our goals as planned and commits us to take more appropriate action across this pandemic to address the social, economic, and environmental detriment of health.
And in Kisumu, to help women recover from the negative economic effects of the pandemic, women organizations under the Urban Grassroots Women Caucus partnered to sensitize them on how to rebuild their businesses. Finally, Nyandarua government has expressed its concern over the surging number of COVID-19 cases in the county, with markets and bars identified as the super spreaders.
We have employed almost 300 healthcare workers, extra healthcare workers, to take care of our people. And we're asking our people, please take good care of yourself.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
You and your mouth, just too much, Zip it, will you?
Yani, I am trying to help you and now you are here to let an enemy so new embassy.
I didn't mean it like that. I was just... Never mind.
What the hell is going on here? Junior, how dare you turn this class into a disco?
Tito, relax. You're so uptight. Siala.
Hey, for crying out loud, the whole room reeks of your sweat.
Redis, could you be having a shada?
Who has a phone in such a way?
Maybe a ginger dropper.
How will I get out of this?
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If you let people walk all over you, they're going to do the same thing to this gym. What you need to know that is this place isn't turned around in a month or less. I will pay you for wasting your time.
Do you know something that I don't?
Lucky, unani avoid. Mbona?
Do we even know Jimmy hasn't confessed yet?
What makes you think that?
The two men I had follow Jimmy said he met with a Yura.
Ni siwezi nikakupa msamaha.
Mimi hata siulizi msamaha.
Wewe utaishi maisha yako yote na huo ubatili.
Now, in the business world, the world is alarmingly off track to deliver sanitation for all by the year 2030, with more than 4.2 billion people using sanitation services that leave human waste untreated. In Kenya, the situation is dire, with limited investment in a proper sewerage system, leaving millions of people exposed to waterborne diseases. Water and Energy Solutions firm Davis Initiative is urging the government to invest in wastewater recycling systems to deal with the crisis.
Globally, more than 700 children die every day from diseases caused by unsafe water, sanitation and poor hygiene.
In the context of sanitation, I think we need to be looking at systems which do not require electricity to work, are self-powering, or if they do need power, that the power is from a renewable energy source, mostly solar in this case.
More than 673 million people in the world still practice open defecation, majority in the developing countries.
It's water that has been contaminated with something. Interestingly, about 30% of the world's water is literally flushed down the toilet. So a lot of the world's water is polluted by, contaminated by human waste.
In Kenya, the situation is worse, with occasional outbreaks of cholera and diarrhea cases in many towns. Water and Energy Solutions firm Davis and Shutlift, head of business development Edward Davis, says a large-scale adoption of wastewater recycling is critical in helping Kenya achieve universal safe sanitation and ultimately fight climate change.
Water treatment can be done in various ways, but I think what we're looking at in terms of new technology as a company, Davis & Shirtliff, and also our affiliate company, BioLift Water Technologies, is sustainable solutions which do not require power. It uses aerobic bacteria to break down the waste, and then you have a very high quality effluent, which is the treated water, which can be reintroduced into even sensitive water courses. So that water is then safe to be used again, and it can boost agriculture. It can even reduce carbon emissions, and essentially you're recycling your water.
It is estimated that approximately 21 million of Kenyans, or 40% of the country's population, uses unsanitary or shared latrines. The situation is most alarming in Nairobi County. The city's sewers infrastructure was originally designed to support less than 1 million people. However, the population has ballooned to more than 4 million residents, overwhelming the city's infrastructure.
I think we have to look at it on a community level there, and we would need again, a multilateral approach between government and private sector, I think. Town planning comes into it, ecological planning as well. But as I say, we all need water, so why not recycle it? Why not reuse it? It's a finite resource, which is only going to come under more pressure. So I think even, it doesn't matter who you are and in which income category, we all need water, and we all need to make use of the water that we have.
Davis says both government and private sector players need to pull a working collaborative effort to accelerate the adoption of smart technologies that will power populations to use water responsibly and recycle wastewater in a sustainable manner. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Well, and on that note, we move to the interview segment whereby this afternoon we are joined by Professor Misheni Ntiba, who is the Principal Secretary for Fisheries, Aquaculture and Blue Economy. Well, welcome, sir. Now, the country targets to increase fish production from the current 3,000 metric tons to over 100,000 metric tons in the next 1 year. What measures has the government put in place so as to ensure this is achieved? Yes, Professor Misheni.
Thank you very much, Jackie. It's good that we discuss the subject of fisheries and fisheries production in this country. Since this day is the day that we are celebrating the World Fisheries Day. It's being celebrated today, not the conventional date of the 21st of November, as characteristically happens in all the years across the globe, because 21st falls on a Saturday. That's why we are celebrating it today. If I can say a bit about the World Fisheries Day, is that it is a very important day when the world discusses the importance, critical importance of people, the relationship between people and water, and also fish which lives in water. Very important. But I think the way we understand it now and how we experience it now is that we are getting into a lot of stress with water. We are getting into a lot of pollution issues in water. Whether that water is in rivers, whether that water is in lakes, in seas, in oceans, or in fish ponds, and things like that. I think the important thing to notice is that water, wherever it is a continuum. It's a continuum because water is in a cycle. Water in the biosphere does not increase or decrease. It is in a cycle, whether it is in the ocean, whether it is in the lakes. It also becomes part of the clouds that we see in the skies, the water that flows on streams, going back into So this is very important, and therefore fish thrives in those waters, and that's the critical thing that we need to be talking about. How do we keep those waters healthy? How do we keep those waters clean? How do we keep those waters safe for producing safe fish?
Mm-hmm. And on that note, how do we produce more? Tell us maybe what measures has the government put in place so that there is more production of fish in the country?
Well, to tackle this is to say that Kenya is fortunate in the sense that it has plenty of water around itself. There's water in the lakes, like we pointed out, water in rivers, in the ocean. In fact, almost half of Kenya, 42% of Kenya is in the sea. And it is in these waters that we produce natural fisheries, capture fisheries. But we also have other fish that we grow, what we call aquaculture on land and in fresh waters, and what we call mariculture in the salt waters of the ocean. Kenya to date produces about 150,000 metric tons of fish from recent statistics, and that if Kenyans are going to eat fish at the continental level of 10 kilograms per Kenyan per year, we are in short supply of over 350,000 metric tons per year. And the government is putting in a lot of mechanisms to increase productivity from our natural waters. For example, we know over 70% of our fish, of that fisheries production, comes from our fresh waters, and particularly from Lake Victoria, very important lake for us and other lakes. We have about 26,000 metric tons coming from the sea. Remember, the sea is very big for us, 42% of Kenya's territory, and only produces 26,000 metric tons per year. And the other comes from farmed systems. But what is critical to understand is that the production from the natural waters has remained static for a very long time. We've only seen increases by 3% of production from the aquaculture farmed systems. So we want to manage the natural waters in ways that they will remain sustainable. We want to manage Lake Victoria in a manner that the lake will continue giving us the fish that it gives us. But we know, for example, the ocean is a big ecosystem requiring a lot of investments, requiring a lot of inputs. And the government is playing a very big role to increase productivity from the ocean. Remember also in the ocean, we have very many people who are small-scale producers in the shallow waters. But also we need to see Kenyans going into the deeper waters to produce fish from there. This requires ships, this requires a lot of training, this requires a lot of security. And you can understand this is the reason why in 2018, the Kenyan government established the Kenya Coast Guard to be able to protect the fishers, to be able to provide security for people working in those waters. We are also right now constructing a lot of fisheries infrastructure, landing sites across the Indian Ocean waters, across Lake Victoria. We are also constructing now a state-of-the-art fish and tuna processing system in Mombasa. We will develop others in Lamu and in Shimoni moving forward. And also we are doing a lot of aquaculture farming in the country. Remember, in the past years, we mainstreamed aquaculture farming in the country. But right now, we want to commercialize fish farming in 15 counties. And the program is supported by Kenyan government and the International Fund for Agricultural Production moving forward. It's doing very well. We need to increase our productivity from the current levels to well over 470,000 metric tons in the coming few years, and in the medium term to 100,000 metric tons. We feel that this country can produce well over 1 million metric tons utilizing our natural waters and our farmed systems. But also let me clarify this other matter. Natural systems like Lake Victoria, like the Indian Ocean, have certain capacities. These culling capacities will be surpassed one day, and therefore we cannot produce more fish beyond the maximum sustainable yield of Lake Victoria, which I think it has reached to date. We have some fish productivity of over 300,000 metric tons in the Indian Ocean, and once we reach that capacity, we will not be able to produce more fish from that lake. I think we have also untapped potential in Lake Turkana, which we need also to be able to utilize. But that's the case for natural water systems. They have certain maximum capacities beyond which we will not be able to produce more fish. So I think the future is to develop fish farming systems, because globally, aquaculture is overtaking natural fish production. And if we take the figures of 2018 from the current figures that we have from FAO, well over 100,000 metric tons of fish came from farmed systems in the world. But also when you look at the sea waters and the land systems, we are producing well over 50% of farmed fish from fresh waters. And therefore, we in the country need to embrace fish farming moving forward. We need to also start farming in the sea while we are trying to remove the natural stocks through the conventional methods.
And to counties which are experiencing a water shortage, what measures is the government putting in place so that even them they can be part of the process?
Jackie, you see, I've been telling people that, let us not venture into fish farming if we don't have water. Fish only grows in water. That's why they are aquatic systems. And there are some of our counties which don't have enough water for this. Remember, there's a lot of competition for water for various uses and things like that. We could either develop mechanisms to harvest water during the rainy seasons. Remember, we have 2 rainy seasons every year. Remember, every year it rains, there's always a lot of havoc by rainwater. You've led today's messages how our lake levels are coming, are growing, are increasing, swallowing lands that people farm, people live, and things like that. One of the mechanisms is for us to be able to tap rainwater for our use, including fish farming. But I think also we need to develop and embrace new technologies of farming like aquaponics, where in aquaponics systems we can farm fish, farm vegetables in water that is circulating in structures that are called intensive fish farming systems. We are able to do that moving forward. We've tried this in a number of schools in the country. Well over 30 schools are producing a lot of fish for themselves for food in aquaponic systems. And we intend to mainstream this even in our counties that are quite dry.
Well, just maybe even we are running out of time, and maybe what is your last point, just as Kenya joins the world in commemorating the World Fisheries Day?
I think, Jackie, the one thing I want to remind Kenyans is this, that water is important for our own survival as human beings in terms of the lives that water supports, in terms of the creatures that live in water. Now, for fisheries, I think that Kenyans must embrace the culture of stopping pollution, keeping water safe, keeping oceans healthy, keeping the lakes healthy, because our activities on land usually affect these waters, compromising them for our own use, compromising them for the creatures that live in those waters, and also the food that we get from those waters. So on this World Fisheries Day is to urge Kenyans that we should do everything possible individually and collectively to be able to keep our waters in whatever ecosystem healthy and safe, including in the fish ponds. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Misheni Ntiba there, who is the Principal Secretary for Fisheries, Aquaculture and the Blue Economy. Now moving on, Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization is conducting tests on Bokash fertilizer, an organic fertilizer deemed to be a game changer in tea farming. According to scientist Dr. Monica Waiganjo, the product has huge benefits compared to conventional fertilizer as it lacks chemicals and has no harmful side effects to humans.
Kenya is a leading exporter of black tea, accounting for nearly 20% of total global tea exports. However, low tea prices coupled with the high cost of farm inputs have led to an 18% shrinkage under tea acreage.
Last year had only 40% of the fertilizer they get from outside. 40%, 60% was not available. And today, as we are talking, the farmers, the tea farmers, cannot even access the fertilizer that they normally get in order to apply on their tea plantations.
For a long time, farmers have complained over expensive fertilizer, which accounts for more than 20% of their input costs, despite government's efforts to subsidize the cost of the commodity. The Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization is conducting tests on Bokash fertilizer, an organic chemical deemed to be a game changer in tea farming.
And we are hoping that we will be able to test it as Caro, because we are engaged in partnering with different organizations.
Initial tests indicate that the locally manufactured Bokash fertilizer has the potential to boost tea production output as well as lower the cost of production significantly. According to scientist Dr. Monica Waiganjo, the product has huge benefits compared to conventional fertilizer since it's environmentally friendly with no recorded side effects to humans.
I am very confident that it will be preferred by most of the consumers. One, because we do not really want to encourage a lot of chemicals into our bodies. This is a biofertilizer.
The Bokash fertilizer is made using locally available materials like molasses. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And in the sports arena, Kenya Lionesses will take on reigning champions and host New Zealand, Australia and Wales if they qualify for 2021 Women's Rugby World Cup, slated for September 18th in Auckland. The pools have been confirmed for Rugby World 2021 with less than 10 months before the tournament kicks off. Pool B sees Canada set to face USA for the first time in pool stages of a Rugby World Cup alongside Europe 1 and Asia 1. Rugby World Cup 2017 runners up England are drawn in Pool C alongside bronze medalist France, South Africa and Fiji, who are set to make their Rugby World Cup debut. Kenya will face face Colombia in Nairobi, with the winner heading to a 4-team tournament where the top team is set to play in Pool A. The remaining 2 places will be filled by a qualifier from Asia and Europe. And Kenya Premier League side Kakamega Homeboys is among 14 clubs that have signed an undertaking with Football Kenya Federation to have the Premier League kick off on November 27th. Homeboys has signed the undertaking alongside promoted side Vihiga United. Other clubs ready to kick off the season include AFC Leopards, Banditry, Sofapaka, Western Steamer, Bidco United, Nairobi City Stars and KCB among others. FKF boss Nick Mwendwa says teams that will not have signed the undertaking by the league kickoff will not get money from sponsors. Mwendwa has also confirmed that the COVID-19 test for all the team players will be conducted on Monday ahead of the return of the league. Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ka. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter has been Simon Karutha. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Vera Beauty College.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret, Thika and Meru.